One of the notable changes in the president's new cabinet is the appointment of Barbara Creecy, the former Minister of Forests, Fisheries and Environment, to this now pivotal role of Minister of Transport. Newzroom Afrika's Nasiphi shares some reaction from her location. Nasiphi, good morning.
Well, morning, Iman, and as you put it, Minister Barbara Creecy now moves to transport, a very big and vast portfolio there where she will be, taking or rather overseeing road, rail, sea, including air transport. And we are joined by Justice Fund CEO Lorenzo Davis to give us his reaction with the new appointment of Minister Barbara Creecy moving from one portfolio or ministry into transport.
Yeah, good morning. And this is a very, very important announcement the President made, because public transport and transport is at the heart of our economy. And if we're going to succeed as a country, then we have to get transport right up front. The new Minister Barbara Creecy is going to have an incredible task to do what I think first and foremost, the integration of transport in this country. There has to be a transition from one form of transport to the other, whether it's public transport or whether it's freight or whether it's rail or whether it's air, between the different dimensions of transport, so that we can have a seamless public transport system and a seamless freight transport system. So the integration of the service is paramount. The white paper speaks to that, and the white paper calls for it. The second thing that I think the minister is going to have to do within the current dispensation is that she must look at infrastructure. You cannot have an integrated public transport system and not have the infrastructure to support it. And then thirdly, the subsidization of those public transport systems. So the taxi industry has been outside of this particular discussion. They need to be brought in, because they are the mass people mover in this country. And they are outside of the state's financing system or subsidization system. They must be integrated, there must be infrastructure, and there must be money on the table to provide an efficient public transport service. So the minister is going to have to do a lot of talking, a lot of negotiating very soon, very rapidly, because we are losing time. We're losing money in the agricultural sector, we're losing money across other dimensions of the economy. So there's a lot of hard talk that has to be done up front.
Lorenzo, we can't obviously ignore the big taxi strike in the Western Cape last year, including the fact that the biggest corridor is partially operated, which is the Central Line, transporting vulnerable communities that is still not operating fully up until now, 2 years down the line. How do you think the minister should navigate those terrains?
I think the minister should engage early by delaying an engagement, because whilst the minister is new, the issues are not new. The issues are old. The taxi industry has been excluded from the discussions. The minister has not been involved. The past minister has not been actively involved in bringing an integration of public transport. Buses, trains, taxis, and even air and other freight rail services must be made compatible with each other. They must be put in a position where they provide a service that the country needs. There are people that are poor who need a reliable public transport service. So not only is it the integration and infrastructure, it's also the expansion of the service to reach the far-flung parts of the country. So my call to the minister is quick action and quick discussions.
Lorenzo, what happens if we don't see these quick actions, quick discussions, engagements, and the integration of the transport sector? What happens if we continue on this trajectory?
First and foremost, you're not going to have the economic growth that you are talking about. You're not going to see the stability that we need in our economy, where agriculture needs goods to get to market, people need transport to get to work. If that keeps on collapsing, we are not going to see the success which the 7th administration is requiring, is predicting. So it's a real challenge for all of us to understand the complexities of public transport and not put it on the side as a separate issue to our economic well-being. The taxi industry, the trains, the buses, and all the other public transport services are integral to what the public is calling for, a great revitalized economy. If we don't have that revitalized economy, there will be no public transport at the end of the day. It won't require it anymore.
Lorenzo, we've had ministers trying to engage with the taxi industry following last year's stay away. As much as things seem to be back to normal, how does one engage perhaps with the sector like, the taxi industry, for example?
Yeah, look, it's been very difficult over the last 15 years to see something meaningful come out of the many dialogues that has taken place. I think the taxi industry is willing to talk, is ready to talk. I think there are people in the industry that should be approached very quickly, brought into discussions, and create a forum where those discussions are not just talk shops, because that's the problem in South Africa. We keep having all kinds of forums and discussions without any actions happening. The minister knows she should go back to all the memoranda, she should go back to all the prior logotlas, discussions, whatever took place, and ask, what does it tell us? And then act on those things. A quick, brief, short stint of negotiations and meetings, and then a series of planned actions to get the integration of the transport sector done and dusted as quickly as possible.
On rail now, Lorenzo, as I mentioned, a metro rail in the Western Cape, Central Line hasn't been operating to its full capacity for about 3 years now, or possibly even more. I wanted to then ask you, Lorenzo, how does one then move from a railway system that used to, at its peak, transport about 1 million people to now one can just count the number of people that it actually moves?
The confidence in our public transport systems have diminished. And that's a big issue for the country. Trains are our most efficient means of public transport. Taxis should become feeder systems to every form of public transport there is, to buses, to trains, even to the airport. However, the breakdown is that, as I said earlier on, there isn't a good discussion happening, a trustworthy discussion happening. There is such a lot of suspicion, a lack of trust, deviousness happening within the system, that the minister is going to have to build trust in her conversations, that she is not going to delay what is necessary now, which is strong infrastructure, great integration, big expansion, subsidization across the board, and then the sticky issue that she'll have to deal with is that the white paper also speaks of devolution. And there's going to have to be localized provincial and municipal public transport authorities established very quickly that manages those systems. So the plan is there. It is the guts, the will to get this thing done. Barbara Creecy has shown she can do things like this, and I think she should enter the office with her running shoes on.
Before I let you go, we've seen a number of protest action when it comes to e-hailing services, calling on for government to intervene. What is your thoughts with this new administration, the new minister, taking up position when it comes to the e-hailing sector?
We have to understand that any form of public transport should be accommodated. Now, that's not saying that we should cut out other people. We should allow a bigger space where all operators can function reasonably and efficiently. E-hailing services, taxis, buses, trains, they should all be an integrated system where no one is punitively suffering as a consequence of the decisions the minister may be making. It must be a decision that benefits the users, the operators, the owners across the board without them feeling that now the future is dark because they are losing out on the decisions that will punitively be against them. We must have confidence in the minister that her decision making is going to render a solid, integrated, strong public transport service for South Africa. And as I said earlier on, the economy demands it. We cannot grow our economy without it. Freight and passenger rail is the backbone of a strong economy. And so the minister, again, I appeal to her, must do something quickly. There's enough evidence in her office of what must be done. She's got the white paper. She's got the results of various dialogues and discussions. She needs to act on that.
Lorenzo Davids, the CEO of the Justice Fund, saying the minister, being in the driver's seat of Transport Ministry, needs to put her running shoes on and hit the ground running and ensure that she implements all of those decisions, including the white paper that he speaks of, and integrating public transport.